And now we get to the main event of the evening in the UFC's heavyweight division. You have a battle between the number one ranked former heavyweight title challenger in Ciryl Gane coming into this fight after that title fight loss to Francis Ngannou, going up against the number 3 ranked Tai Tuivasa. The nickname suits him well because if this man touches your chin at any point, he can put anybody out in the heavyweight division. I mean, I like this fight a lot. I think that this is a very interesting stylistic matchup. And I mean, you know what you're going to get with a guy in Ciryl Gane. I mean, I know he's only had 11 pro MMA fights, but his evasive footwork, his movement, his in and out style, paired with his ability to counter, use that jab, step back, pop the jab, left hook, pivot off, constantly changing stances and switching angles. He's one of the most elusive, or the most elusive heavyweights in the entire game of mixed martial arts, I should say, aside from Tom Aspinall. I think Aspinall and Ciryl Gane are two of the most elusive and evasive heavyweights in the entire game of mixed martial arts, and especially in the UFC. Now, when you're looking at a guy in Tai Tuivasa, 15-3, you got 15-3 going up against 10-1. Tuivasa is on a little bit of a hot streak here as well. I mean, he is coming off that knockout victory over Derek the Black Beast Lewis in a fight where, yes, he got hurt at some points, but he was able to kind of just bite down on his mouthpiece and stand in the pocket and trade with Derek Lewis, which that's what Lewis likes to do. It's just throwing bombs, throwing heavy punches, and trying to knock you out. Derek Lewis is not a technical heavyweight. He's never been a technical heavyweight. He is a brawler. Derek Lewis is the epitome of a brawler in the UFC's heavyweight division. I mean, at some points, I think people may have considered him to be a little bit more technical than he should be given credit for, because I did that as well. I thought the switch kicks were good, the high kicks. He used some grappling and got some takedowns in some of his fights as well. Actually got an outside trip on Tai Tuivasa in their fight. But the thing is, I think if we're looking at this fight, I think people overshadow how good Tuivasa is technically. He's got a very solid jab, good use of the lead hand to parry and, kind of, blind you for a second and then pop you with the jab, Really good jab, left hook, right outside low kick, good right hand and left hook. I mean, everything that Tuivasa throws is with a lot of power. He kind of lulls you to sleep with his physique and his forward plotting movement. He doesn't move nearly as much as Ciryl Gane does. I mean, Gane is more evasive. He's more in and out. He's looking to come in, pop you, catch you on counters, constantly change his stances. Tuivasa changes his stances as well. He's kind of like the Charles Jourdain style of changing his stances, where he'll change stances mid-combo, go jab, right hand, and then switch to the overhand left as he switches into southpaw. He's very good at redirecting you and misdirecting you. I think that could work well for Tuivasa against the guy in Ciryl Gane, who sometimes, as he's circling against the cage, where he uses that lead hand to, measure and extend the distance because he's so tall, long, and rangy for the division. I think if he gets trapped up against the cage against a guy like Tuivasa, I think Tuivasa does have the power to put out Ciryl Gane. I think you can't sleep on the power of Tai. And you also have to remember, he's extremely effective with using his low kicks. Now, against a guy who's as decorated of a kickboxer as a Ciryl Gane, who uses those front kicks, low kicks, high kicks, knees to the body, elbows, he mixes up the entire 8 points of striking extremely effectively. And I think that that's something that Tuivasa cannot afford. He cannot afford to be at range. Tuivasa needs to be in clinch range, boxing range, or just outside of boxing range. If you stay completely at kicking range, unless he's able to use that jab into the right outside low kick and really deaden the lead leg of Ciryl Gane early in the fight, he does have very powerful kicks. His low kicks are extremely powerful. If he lands a few of them on Ciryl Gane, I do think that could be a problem. That could slow down Gane and leave him open for the big power shots of Tuivasa. But with the footwork, the movement, and evasiveness, it's going to be hard for Tuivasa to track down a guy like Ciryl Gane. It's going to be very hard to be able to cut him off, to be able to switch stances and cut him off, get him to circle into the power. If Gane is at range, establishing his jab, the front kicks, the high kicks, the low kicks, whether it's inside and outside, the 1-2 switch stance over the top with the elbows, the knees to the body in the clinch, double jab, overhand right, jab for measure, overhand elbow. I mean, he mixes up his striking extremely effectively. You saw it in the fight against Francis Ngannou. It was so hard for him to get into range. and land any effective strikes on him. But when he got him up against the cage, he was able to use his wrestling, use his takedowns, and really take Gane to the ground and show that he doesn't have the best ground game. He does have some decent submissions. We've seen him get arm triangles. We've seen him get heel hooks before. But I don't think he's going to be looking to set up submissions against a guy in Tuivasa. I think he's going to be looking to establish the distance, establish the range, and really try to poke and prod at Tai Tuivasa in order to set up one of those big power shots. Now, you got to be careful, like I said, with Gane. I think that Tuivasa is going to want to chop those low kicks early and often. Try to get in the face of Gane, pressure forward, high guard, overhand right, left hook, jab, jab, left hook. Kind of swing wild to get Gane to back up, and then when he gets him backed up close to the cage, maybe you start chopping those low kicks. Maybe you feint the low kick, come back with a lead left hook. Maybe feint the low kick, feint the left hook, and come over the top with the right hand. Maybe straight right, left hook, feint the right hand, left hook to just close the distance and shuffle step in. Then you go with the right outside low kicks. I think low kicks for Tai Tuivasa are going to be heavily underappreciated by a lot of people who are going to break down this fight. But I think it's definitely an effective weapon against a guy in Gane who is long, who is rangy, and he uses his movement extremely well. But if you're able to slow down some of that movement and have Gane stay a little bit stationary, I think his ability to pull, slip, and roll away from his shots the way he does with his head movement and counters, I think if you chop those low kicks, then you can be there to land those overhands, land the left hooks, land the shots up against the cage. But I really think the only way that Tuivasa gets anything done in terms of landing those big shots is starting low, chopping at the low kicks, and then trying to get Gane stationary, and then getting Gane to back up against the cage. As he circles away, land the left hook if he circles towards that. If he circles towards the overhand, throw the overhand, but maybe pull it back a little bit, and then step in to get the overhook and then the underhook on the other side. And then if Tuivasa can get Gane up against the cage in those clinch positions, he can strike off the break with elbows, uppercuts, overhands, like we saw him land against Derrick Lewis. You have to remember, the knockout that Tuivasa got against Derrick Lewis was done with the elbow up against the cage. He's very good at landing those elbows. And if he gets Gane up against the cage, I think one of those elbows could land on the chin of Ciryl Gane and put him out. I definitely think Tuivasa has the ability to put out Ciryl Gane if he lands a power shot on his chin. He's got the power to do just about anything. He's going to be at a 2-inch height disadvantage, though, against Ciryl Gane, who's coming in at 6'4", compared to 6'2" for Tai Tuivasa. And he's going to be at a 6-inch reach disadvantage, 81-inch reach for Gane to a 75-inch reach for Tuivasa. So it's going to be the game of long, rangy, technical striking masterclass from Ciryl Gane, just poking and prodding, constantly using evasive footwork and movement, stance switches, front kicks to the body, inside and outside low kicks, high kicks, double jab, right hand, left hook, rear uppercut, double jab, rear uppercut, left hook, double jab. Keep him behind the jab. Keep him behind the long teep kick, the front snap kick to the body. If he gets in close, stance switch as you're moving forward, kind of like that Muay Thai style of marching forward. Switch stance, boom. Switch stance, left body kick, switch back, orthodox, 1-1-2, pull, rear uppercut, roll underneath, left hook, right body kick. Like all those, he's going to have to keep Tuivasa at a distance and just break him down over 25 minutes. I think that Gane can definitely get a decision if it does go the full 25-minute distance. I think Gane could get some outside and inside trips, but I think if anybody's going to close that distance and get in close to the point where maybe a takedown could be established, it's going to be Tuivasa, because Tuivasa has to crash that pocket, get in close, get Gane up against the cage so he can't back up in a straight line, cut him off to the one side with the left hook, cut him off to the other side with the overhand right hook, or just closing that distance with like a clubbing forearm to then get the over-under position and then try to land elbows off the break, uppercuts, knees to the body. He's going to have to make it a dirty fight. Tuivasa has to get in Gane's face and really just get him, pressure him, get him up against the fence and land heavy shots. I think Tuivasa can do it, which is why I think even those people are picking Gane, and I definitely understand the reason why. I think you have to be careful to the point where Tuivasa does have the power to knock out a Ciryl Gane. Now, I know he was able to avoid the power of Francis Ngannou, and people are going to say, well, if you avoid the power of Francis Ngannou, how are you not going to be able to avoid the power of Tai Tuivasa? And I completely get it. I understand completely, and I know where you're coming from with that. And even though he did lose the title fight to Francis Ngannou, he did avoid a lot of the big shots, especially on the feet. The only way that Francis won that fight was the wrestling, the takedowns, and the top pressure. He really showcased his grappling and ground game against Gane. And I don't think that's something that Tuivasa is going to do. But I do think that Tuivasa is live for a knockout, and the only way he wins that fight is by chopping him down and catching him really in close with either strikes from the clinch, elbows and uppercuts, or just a big power shot and knocking him out. And I think Tuivasa is live for that. But if I have to really break it down, I think that it's going to be very difficult for Tuivasa to close the distance. It's going to be almost virtually impossible for him to crash that pocket over 25 minutes with a guy who's as elusive and evasive and as good with the footwork, head movement, cutting angles, stance switches, and along with the technical straight punches that Gane throws. The punches he throws are extremely technical as well. So he's not just technical with his footwork, his movement, and his evasiveness, but also throwing the correct technique when he throws those punches, knees, kicks, and elbows. I think it's going to be kind of poking, prodding, and picking apart Tuivasa over the 25 minutes, and I expect a late TKO finish for the number 1 ranked Gamin, Ciryl Gane. I think Gane is going to be able to just use that jab, use the jab into the left hook to pivot off. 1-2, 1-2, pull back, rear uppercut, cross, frame, rear uppercut, lead elbow, jab, lead elbow, left hook, right body kick, inside and outside low kicks. I think Gane's going to dance around for the majority of it. I think there will be a point where Tuivasa does crash the pocket and land. Don't be surprised if Tai Tuivasa is able to close that distance up against the cage and catch Gane circling to the wrong side and catch him with a power shot and knock him out. But if I have to go off a really well thought out prediction and breakdown of the fight, I just think that the technical ability, the reach and range management, along with the beautiful kickboxing technique of a Ciryl Gane, I think it's going to be extremely difficult for Tuivasa to find that knockout shot. And I think the longer the fight goes, the more he's able to sap that energy with the knees to the body, the front kicks, the jabs, the left hook into the right body kick, the 1-2, the rear uppercuts. I think the elbows in close too are going to be good for Gane, as well as good for Tuivasa, but I think he just breaks him down over that 25 minutes and gets a late 4th round TKO. So my pick is the number 1 ranked Ciryl Gane to defeat the number 3 ranked Tai Tuivasa via 4th round TKO. I think just accumulation of volume, Tuivasa not being able to close the distance and getting tired as the fight goes on. I think he's just going to be kind of death via accumulation, death via volume, and I expect Gane to get the win in the 4th round. So my pick is the number 1 ranked Ciryl Gane to defeat the number 3 ranked Tai Tuivasa via 4th round TKO and be 1 or 2 fights away from another crack at the UFC's heavyweight championship. All right, that's going to be it for my preview, predictions, and breakdown of UFC Fight Night Paris, UFC Fight Night Gane versus Tuivasa. I didn't break down every fight on the card, but I feel like these are the most interesting and most fan-favored fights on the entire card. I hope you enjoyed my breakdown. These podcast predictions will be uploaded to YouTube tonight and into the upcoming days. I know we're a week early because the fights are not this weekend. They are next Saturday, September 3rd. So don't think that these fights are going down this weekend. It's a week in advance because I just wanted to get these out to you. But if we're looking at the best bets for the card in terms of money line, I think you can't go wrong with Imavov. Let's see, what do I got on my predictions that we did? I think Imavov and Whitaker are your 2 best bets. I think that Gane and Tuivasa is a tough fight to bet on because Gane is such a heavy favorite. I think Gane is a good parlay piece, but I almost think he's so heavily favored, and I expect the line to continue to go up, that I don't even think it's probable or plausible to play Ciryl Gane in this fight. If you want to play Tuivasa on the money line, because I expect the knockout prop to be less value than just playing Tuivasa straight up. So if you want to play the underdog, I don't blame you. He does have that puncher's chance, but that's really the only chance I give Tuivasa. But it's a good chance when you know the type of guy that Tuivasa is and the power that he possesses and the technical ability that a lot of people don't give him credit for. But I think the best plays on the card in terms of parlays would be Imavov and Robert Whitaker. I like Nathaniel Wood as well as an underdog, so I think a Wood Imavov Whitaker parlay is a good play. It's not the greatest value because Whitaker is a pretty heavy favorite along with Imavov, and you get the underdog value on Nathaniel Wood. I think he's like plus 130. So if you want to play the Whitaker-Vettori fight, but you don't want to pick a side, I would pick fight goes the distance. I think you'll probably get a better line than minus 230. Maybe you'll get like a minus 190, somewhere around there, that fight goes the distance. It could be a higher value than just playing Whitaker on the money line, but I do like fight to go the distance. So maybe you go Whitaker and Vettori goes the distance, and then you pair that with Nasruddin Imavov. I like that. And then you could throw Wood in there as a solid underdog play. I'm not sure if I would want to put Wood in any of my parlays, but I do like him as the underdog this week, and I wouldn't blame you for playing him. I just think that Charles Jourdain is a little bit too inconsistent to play him in this fight, particularly with how technical Nathaniel Wood is. But yeah, I mean, those are my picks for UFC Paris. You can get this podcast anywhere you get your audio podcast. That includes Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Anchor, Stitcher, Breaker, and many, many more. The picks will be uploaded in a full video along with individual fight breakdowns on the YouTube channel, which is the same as the podcast name, at the Touch 'Em Up Podcast. Thank you all for listening. Please leave a review for this podcast anywhere you can. The most accessible platform for leaving reviews would more than likely be Apple Podcasts. So shoot your way over to Apple Podcasts, leave a review for the Touch 'Em Up Podcast, and tell everybody why this is the most technical and best MMA podcast and MMA breakdown show on the internet. I'm your host, Double M, and I'm out. Have a good night and enjoy the fights next weekend, not this weekend.